Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the reason we call this the multi-purpose room, not just the gym. As you can tell, it is flea market season. And today, on this version of Faith Filled Friday, this is Steve Meldy reporting from Christ Presbyterian Church in Tucson, Arizona. I suppose I should tell you that or remind you of that. It is Friday, February 24th in the year of our Lord 2023. I try to come on Fridays at noon just for a little inspiration, a little challenge of faith. And here we are coming into the season of our flea market, which is March 16, 17, 18 this year. And we are beginning the setups with setting up the multi-purpose room gym. Tables are up, displays are up, and items from storage are coming in and will be set out on all these places for people to purchase. It's interesting to me that, we've just honored Ash Wednesday, the day that we talk about ashes to ashes and dust to dust and how all of that works. And here we are celebrating with loads of stuff that lots of us purchased and loved in our homes and then realized we didn't need or didn't want or wanted to replace or whatever. And it's just kind of like that ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Everything just kind of cycles through, doesn't it? But I think it's worthy of remembering the story from Matthew's Gospel as Jesus is teaching in what's known as the Sermon on the Mount that begins with the Beatitudes. Remember, blessed are those, blessed are those, blessed are those. That's in Matthew chapter 5. He keeps preaching for 3 chapters long in this beautiful sermon and teaching unit that Jesus does. And in chapter 6 at verse 19, he says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." I just think it's a good reminder for me as I see all this setup come and I see all this stuff and I see some of the things that we donated. Oh, there's a big wreath. That used to be in our family. And I think, golly, all the excitement I had when I first bought something and wanted something and then grew tired of it and wanted to replace it with something else, or how people have downsized in their lives, or people have passed and no longer need items. I think of generations of things that my parents loved that in my family have ended up here at the flea market, because even amongst the 9 children, the 30 grandchildren, and the 33 great-grandchildren, and a couple of great-great-grandchildren, there were items that nobody wanted. And this is a place where they end up. It's always a good caution to remind ourselves as we look at what's important in our lives, to realize what really is important in our lives. And Jesus tells us that. Don't store up treasures on earth where the moths and the termites and the thieves get a hold of them, or the deflationary rates get a hold of them and they're not worth what you paid for them anytime after. And sometimes they're not worth anything because nobody else wants them. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven. And I think about the memories that went into some of the items that I've donated for the flea market that are still here. And though sometimes we come to points in our lives when we can't remember things, those kind of memories are still stored in our hearts. And that's the important place to store things, is in our hearts, in our minds. And Jesus is challenging us to make sure that we're not so earthbound that we cannot be heaven-bound. We leave all this stuff behind when we enter into God's realm of eternal heaven. And that's good. That's good. So I guess the challenge is today, coming off of Ash Wednesday, when we talk about how all things kind of burn away, to take stock of our lives and always try to live in a way that honors what Jesus teaches us. Don't store up those things as treasures in heaven, or on earth, but treasures in heaven are to be stored up. And be careful what we do with our lives and the legacy that we leave. Faith is always a challenge. To keep at the core of our lives what's really, really important. Here's where all your old stuff is going. Thank you, everybody. Just think on these things. Just keep your priorities. Keep them within your faith. Grace and peace to you all. Steve Meldy from Christ Presbyterian Church in Tucson, Arizona.